In this video, we're going to be showing you how to do exposure blending of iPhone RAW images with Luminar Neo. As discussed in previous videos, exposure blending is a technique which, as an alternative to HDR, is used to expand the dynamic range in a high contrast scene, but gives you more manual control over the final output. Just like HDR, exposure blending is especially suitable for iPhone RAW images which have less dynamic range than standard cameras. Now, if you're already a Luminar Neo user, you might not even know that Luminar supports layers and blending. But it actually does, and is surprisingly good if you know what the proper workflow is. And that's what we're going to be learning in this video. But you might ask, why even use Luminar as opposed to a dedicated compositing editor like Affinity Photo? I would give 3 reasons. First, you might already be processing your raw images in Luminar and might find it cumbersome to switch to yet another editor just to do the blending. Second, you might like to use Luminar's unique tools to edit the raw images, such as HSL, Structure AI, Enhance AI, and its multitude of extensions, all of which Affinity Photo's developed persona lacks. Third, you might just like Luminar's interface and navigation over affinities. So with that background out of the way, let's demonstrate how to blend raw images with Luminar. So here we are in Luminar. Before we begin the blending, I would first highly recommend to do a little bit of file management and place each set of brackets in separate folders instead of putting them all in one big folder. The reason for this is to make it easier to find the brackets without the hassle of scouring through multitudes of files. As you can see, I've already performed this step and have added the folder into Luminar Neo. The folder has just 2 brackets, both shot in RAW. The first bracket is exposed for the sky and is shot at the lowest ISO of 20 and underexposed by 2 stops. The second bracket is exposed for the cat and also shot at the lowest ISO of 20 and is overexposed by 2 stops. By the way, as always, these raw brackets were shot with our partner app, AURAHDR Camera. Do check them out in the App Store. Now, you might look at the underexposed image and ask, why not just brighten the foreground? A good question. Let's do that. As you can see, despite being shot at the lowest ISO, it is a pretty noisy result, which will only get worse if you decide to perform any sharpening or clarity adjustment later on. On the other hand, examining the overexposed bracket, you can see it is a pretty clean result, although as expected, the sky is blown out. So as you can see, no bracket is perfect, and that's why we perform blending to get the best out of both images. Next, let's begin the blending process. Currently, I'm editing the underexposed bracket. I'll start off by brightening the exposure. Next, I'll add in the overexposed bracket as a layer. I'll click the plus button. I'll select the overexposed image. There, the overexposed image is added into the My Images section. I'll double click it. And there you go, the overexposed image is added in as a second layer on top of the underexposed bracket. One thing to note, and this is something that can easily be overlooked, Luminar has automatically lowered the opacity by half. The reason for this is to provide a quick and lazy way to blend the images. On the other hand, this might not give the best results. As you can see, the sky is looking a bit washed out. As such, instead of merely lowering the opacity, let's combine the images a bit more precisely via masking. I'll increase the opacity to 100%. There, the top layer is no longer semi-transparent. I'll lower the exposure for a better blend. Next, I'll erase the overexposed background to let the beautiful sky from the bottom layer show through. To do that, I'll use a masking brush. With the mode set to erase, I'll paint on the background. There, the images are combined. Next, I'll add a structure adjustment to bring out local contrast and make the subject pop. I'll also add a details adjustment to make the foreground tack sharp. Here is the before and the after. As you can see, a pretty high quality image with very little noise and with every detail present, just like my eyes saw on that beautiful day. So I hope you found this video helpful. As you can see, Luminar is a perfectly capable tool for exposure blending if you know how to use it, and now you do. Make sure to help out our channel by purchasing AURAHDR Camera, the best app for computational photography. I'll see you in the next video.